and we are here with episode 15 of Community During Chaos. We are going live with Crew Nation, the crew. Also, we will be speaking to someone from the Great North, Dru Bex, and then Mogli the Iceburg. So it's super exciting. Again, you gotta let it go. This was longer than I remember. This is way too long. We gotta finish it now. All right, there you go.
There we go.
We have now officially, since I had you guys, upped the production quality.
Oh, okay. Wow. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that is the biggest production quality I've had, except for this ring light that's in my face right now. But what's up? I look good. I'm doing my best, man. How are you guys doing? I don't think I've ever done a face-to-face with you fellas.
No,
we good, man. We feeling good, man. It's an honor, bro, for real. Straight up.
Real talk.
Listen, you're the most honored guest I have because you're the only one who had an intro song. So the honor is also mine. So yeah, welcome to the show. I was running a little late, so I was afraid you guys were going to be like, "Where's Justin at?" And then I'm on here, and I was like, "Where are you guys at?" But we're good. I'm glad to see you guys together. Yeah, let's do this because you guys have been making some waves the past couple of weeks, whether it be your Twitter handle names, whether it be some current events that you feel like relating to biblical things. But I see them all. And so let me first ask you, 2020 obviously has been an absolutely insane year. So how have you guys navigated through everything that's been going on? Give me one second. Yeah.
Be honest, man. Just taking it a day at a time. Just kind of not moving too fast and just really just kind of watching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same here. Just trying to take the necessary precautions. I still do work a full-time job, so I'm out here 5 days a week. Just I wear my mask every day.
Mask on?
Mask on.
Hey!
Straight like that. Just trying to take the necessary precautions and staying safe. I have to make money to pay my bills, so I'm out here. Luxury of working from home like this gentleman, so.
Well, like myself too. I get to work from home.
Yeah, man. I'm loving it. I don't want to go back.
And what about some of the other stuff, the civil unrest, the social justice, how have you guys dealt with that?
It's very this is a very stressful we've never seen anything like this in terms of people standing up and saying enough is enough. It's just crazy, unlike anything that we've seen in the middle of a pandemic, to kind of see these things transpire. As far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen anything like George Floyd. I'm kind of that wants to look at the full situation, but George Floyd was the one thing that you could not turn away and say, well, what did he do? Now, obviously, there are some trolls out there that want to try to play devil's advocate regardless, but that man should have walked away with his life, and I think everybody should agree and can agree with that. So for this to happen and you see it and it's blatant, and for people to come together during a pandemic, it's like anything that we've ever seen. So man, we in some crazy times. Not just that, man. A lot of people have lost their lives, man. Kobe and
absolutely.
This is definitely a year for the books, man, for real. But so far as social justices, man, and people standing up for that, I'm loving what we're seeing. because the unity and people saying, you know, enough is enough, and you know, the people trying to come together and address these issues. Everything, you know, from the NBA bubble and the NFL,
right,
and things of that sort, to the point to where the NBA actually boycotted a game. So I'm loving what I'm seeing. Like I said, this is definitely going to be a year for the history books in terms of everything that we see, you know, with the pandemic and with social justice issues and everything. So
yeah, we'll never forget it. That's for sure. You kind of know every day. Like what were you doing on, you know, March 17th at 5:00? Oh, I remember exactly what happened then. I just had this thought. Remember, I think it was, what was it, 2011 or 2012, when it was supposedly the Mayan calendar said it was the end of the world. I think they got it wrong. Like, I think it was this year.
Right?
It's like, man, maybe they were right. They just messed up. They didn't have that technology yet. So let me ask you guys obviously a very specific platform inside of a very already specific genre of music, of entertainment. So how have you guys been able to kind of talk about and give voice to some of these things that are going on, while also, like, you know, maintaining that audience and your subject matter?
To be honest, the people are going to listen to and watch what they want to listen to and watch.
Yeah.
So one of the things that, you know, obviously, is that we don't have a filter. Actually, he is my filter. If I'm honest.
It's the good cop, bad cop is your relationship.
You did not realize the struggle, man, of working with this dude, man, like, for real. But hey, you know, I just let him go off sometimes, for real.
But yeah.
So anytime it's something crazy, we just assume it's like, all right, it was Jay.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always me. Yeah.
I just always assumed it was you. It was you anyway. just based on hearing you talking your videos. I was like, it's him.
Yeah, and then he'll call me and be like, bro, did you really say that? Like, bro, you got to stop doing that. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm sorry. And then I'll go back off. But no, like I said, with us not having a filter, people are going to listen, watch what they want to watch. So fact of the matter, we bring it up regardless of the audience, and it's going to hit who it's going to hit, and it's going to be for who it's going to be for. So we don't really make a conscious effort to try to tie it into Christian hip hop or anything like that, because the fact of the matter is, it's real life.
Yeah.
You know, when I had a interview with Jay Crumb and Mitch Durrell and Sam Alcott, when they was all on the panel, we just discussed real issues.
Mm-hmm.
They were Christian hip hop artists, but it was just guys having a real conversation. So we don't really make a conscious effort to try to make it fit in with the genre, because the fact of the matter is, most people in the genre are living this truth.
And
so,
the thing about it is, and we talked about this several times, people are going to have these conversations anyways. We were just bold enough to get on a YouTube channel and present it to the people, present these conversations to the people.
Right.
We knew that certain situations were going on in Christian hip hop. We knew, you know, and outside the world. Well, why can't we touch on that? What makes it me and you that you sit there and you gossip to your friends at home?
Bro, it's not gossip.
Discuss. Okay. Okay. The proper time. Discuss. All right. So what's different, you know, from you discussing that at home with your homeboys or with your friends, than us doing it and putting it on our platform? To me, I don't think it's a difference. And a lot of people have problems with us, but we we own who we are, and we're not we do, and that's kind of how we've been able to just move forward. And God has blessed us regardless.
100%.
Yeah, and I mean, in every section and category of pretty much anything, you kind of need this balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, even in you go to mainstream journalism, like, you need the New York Times with, like, a Mother Jones or a TMZ and a Wall Street Journal. Like, there has to be some sort of balance, because you can't always get this straight-laced answer every time. Oftentimes, it's the gossip stuff and those sites that are always right.
Yeah.
Like, if someone's dead or some scandal happened and TMZ reported it, I've never not trusted it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, TMZ reported it. They're always right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of having those that voice on the street type feel. Like we're the regular, like you guys, you're the regular people that are kind of out here. You don't have any allegiance to anybody. You're not, you're not presenting to be like, we're some moral standing, like high standing journalists. Like, no, we're just telling you how we see it. We're shooting straight. And it's needed.
Yeah.
It's 100% needed.
And we've been told by a bunch of artists, like, yo, y'all do not realize how spot on that y'all were. When we talk about these things and have these discussions, and really, I mean, and we do our due diligence. We're never just going to step out there. But one thing that people forget is that our show is a very opinionated show. It's the, if you will, the first takes, the first of the world, the undisputed world.
Yep.
What our show is. So we're not necessarily trying to jump out there and just present the news. No, we're going to give an unfiltered opinion about what we believe is happening. So yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I'm super envious. I was like, yo, if I would have reported that story or said that, I would have been absolutely destroyed in the comments. They would have been sending me to hell. They would have told me I was terrible. And then you guys put it up and like, oh, these guys are geniuses. They're the voice of the people. And I'm just like, yo, like, what the heck?
But you know what the difference is? The difference is, honestly, is that's how we came in. You know what I mean?
Right.
We never came in with any allegiance, like you said. We never came in trying to please anybody. We just came in being ourselves. And I think that's more or less what people latch on to. We're just real people that just happen to get on YouTube, as my brother said. So, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And you'll have that loyalty going forward. Like that's your crew. So I mean, that's dope. So let me ask you though. So you cover you cut out for a second. Hear what you said.
A lot of it has to do with us being black, but it happens.
So obviously you cover a lot of controversial stuff, or a lot of stuff that maybe I can't talk about. Maybe I know it and I'm just like, I won't say it. But you guys aren't afraid to say it. So where do you kind of pick and choose your battles? Where do you draw the line? Like, and trying to figure out, how should we talk about this? Maybe we shouldn't.
Actually, Justin, I have no say-so in what we talk about.
Yes, you do, bro. Yes, you do. The Rockstar JT joint.
That's true. That was okay. I did choose that topic. You know, Jay.
As far as, I mean, honestly, Twitter is the greatest place on earth. And like I say, people put out their real feelings, and so there's really no, I guess, trying to figure out which one we pick. Honestly, if it's something that everybody's talking about in Christian, because one of the things that I noticed is a lot of people that utilize YouTube a lot do not have connections to social media. So a lot of these topics they don't know are going on, or they don't know anything about it. So that's what kind of, oh man, this was huge in Twitter. Well, then this weekend we're going to talk about it on YouTube. So it's just kind of one of those things. We follow all the artists. And it's pick and choose, like, well, if Lecrae says something, we're going to talk about it. No, I mean, if it doesn't make sense for the show, or if we know it's not really going to get the clicks, then we're not really going to talk about it. I mean, it is a business at the end of the day. But if it's interesting it has to be interesting to us. Just because it got a lot of traffic on Twitter doesn't mean we're just going to talk about it, because if we're dumb to the situation, that's stupid to put ourselves out there like that.
Yeah.
So a lot of things that go into play with, I guess, kind of choosing what we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. And with everything that's been going on in the world, since you guys are giving unfiltered opinions, I want to know sort of your reaction to, how do you think the CHH community has done overall during the chaos of this year? And what do you think they could do better that you guys have observed? Well, if anything.
Well, I mean, I think it depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about actually having the conversation of what's going on, I think Christian did an excellent job, especially.
I agree.
Like a propaganda, like a Derek Minor, like even somebody who received some of the most flack in Lecrae. I think that they've done an excellent job. Mitch Durrell as well. Has done an excellent job really talking about these issues and taking the licks from the fans. Like, a lot of these people are catching a lot of flack from the fans, but they don't care because they understand that the issues are bigger.
Yeah.
As far as what we can do better, I don't think that there's much more that can be done outside of just trying to have the conversation. Because the thing that I've always said is that 80% of the fans do not look like 80% of the artists. It's just facts. So the issue comes that the artists are really doing all that they can when they're talking about it in their music and they're going off about it on social media, and they're having different initiatives. I know one of Derek Minor's initiatives is Black is the New Ownership. You know, ownership is the new black, right?
Right.
So they're doing everything that they can. It's just up to the fans to listen, is really what it boils down to. I like it when they give the raw emotions. I don't think it needs to be sugar-coated. I don't think it needs to be cookie cutter, because I think that a lot of the fans need to know how we really feel. Like it's easy for them to dismiss it when we're being passive about it. But when we're in your face about it, now you see our hurt. Now you see why we're really upset. So I don't think CHH really can do anything other than what they have been doing personally.
Yeah. Doing a really good job at stepping out there and stepping up, like you said, to some of the names that you've named. And I think it's important for the Christian hip hop fans to just respect it. I don't think that you can sit there and not be a part of the demographic, but yet to judge from afar.
Right.
Ask for understanding and try to talk to somebody, or allow a person who's within that different demographic that's suffering, who's speaking up and saying, hey, we are struggling with this. I think that it's important for somebody that's not a part of that demographic to say, yo, I want to understand where you're coming from. You know, I want to try to figure out why are you saying these type of things, instead of just, you know, that's not really how it is, or you know, more white people die from by the hands of police officers than what black people do. Okay, we understand those things, but let's try to get to what we're really, really focusing on here. So I think that it's important to understand that, and I think that the Christian hip hop artists have done a good job at speaking up. And basically, I feel like the Christian hip hop artists are kind of getting to a point to where they're not going to be prisoner of the fans anymore. And if they lose some listeners, I think that they're at the point of be it.
That's fine.
So, you know, so be it. I'm just tired of sitting by and allowing the things that are transpiring in today's world, and feeling like that they can't have a voice to talk about those things. So,
yeah, it's kind of like, you know, being used. It's like I'm using Lecrae or Derek Minor, whoever the artist is, they make the music that makes me feel good. But now when they need to feel good, I got nothing for you.
Yep.
And one of the things you said was kind of poignant, where you said 80% of the fans don't look like 80% of the artists. And this might be one of the only like genres, maybe, I guess hip hop in general, where most of the consumers of it are white and most of the artists are black. Yep. And usually you listen to music or you watch things or you consume media that you're relating to. So white people can't relate to what black people are going through, yet for whatever reason, they consume black media more than anybody else. Right. And then when they're like, let's be relatable. No, we can't do that. It doesn't make any sense. It's actually, I'd love to see like somehow some case study or something on that, but it's a really interesting point.
I really think it's the fantasy. When we're talking about mainstream hip hop, I think it's the fantasy.
Right.
I think it's the fantasy. Yeah. I think they want to be, you know, robbing people. I think they want to have the hot girls. I think they want to have all the money. I think that's really what it is, because honestly, it's all entertainment, right? So the thing is when they listen to the hip hop, they like the way it makes them feel. It makes them feel cool. It makes them feel accepted, you know, when they get around their other friends or whatever the case is, but they don't care about the issues. So that's
right. It's like how every person feels after they watch The Godfather or Goodfellas. Be like, yeah, it would be so dope to be a gangster, you know, to have an olive oil business, and do all that stuff. That's the same sentiment when you're listening to Reasonable Doubt or, you know, whatever. Yeah. It's like, I wish I could do this. And then, okay, here, take that issue. No, the dream is over.
Right. And I think they admire it too. Like I think, like you said, with the Jay-Z, I think they admire the coming up and now being the positive side of things, right? I think they really do admire a lot of the Christian hip hop artists. You know, having these struggles, but depending on God, right? But when it comes to, I need you to really feel my pain and stand with me and speak out against these things, because us speaking out against it really doesn't mean anything, Justin. I mean, if we're honest, it's beating a dead horse if we say it. But if you say it, now it means something. Now, because you're talking to your friends and your people that you come with a lot, you know, now it's like, okay. So, I mean, I think that's kind of what it is. It's like we admire the come up, but we don't want to hear about the issues.
Right. No, that makes sense 100%. Now, for you guys, what are kind of your hopes and dreams in moving forward and hoping for a 2021 refresh?
Yeah, the reset button. I think we're all just hoping for 2021 at this point.
Can't get any worse, right?
Yeah.
If it does, God help us.
Whoa. Slow down.
Don't say that.
Slow down.
Don't say it can't get any worse.
Yeah, I know. Like, oh man, I really wish 2020 was still here. This year is awful.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think at this point, man, we're really just trying to get through. I mean, our goals and we're really just shooting for the stars, man. We're aiming for the moon. We're shooting for the stars and aiming for the moon. Yeah, man.
Shout out to Pop Smoke.
Yeah, shout out to Pop Smoke. But I mean, that's honestly, man, we're just looking forward to getting out of this year. I mean, we're constantly working. Shouts out to MC Nice, man. We got a couple of things running with him.
He was on here last week. MC Nice was on here last week.
Right? Yeah. So shouts out to him, man. He's really helping a lot and pushing the culture forward, man. I'm just happy that he, reached out to us, to let us help.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, we're really at this point, man, we're just looking forward to the end of the year or to the next year. That's it.
Well, you got to be able to look forward to something.
Yeah. That's it.
All right, real quick, where could everyone, follow you guys? What do you got going on? Give a little plug.
Hey, yeah, definitely, man. YouTube, The Crew's Hip Hop Corner. Instagram, The Crew's Hip Hop Corner. On Twitter, if y'all, now we get a little wild on Twitter, but on Twitter, at The Crew HHC, man. Y'all can reach us there, man. And we are blood brothers, just for anybody asking, anybody want to know, we are blood brothers.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate what you guys do. Keep killing it. Unfortunately, I can't avoid you guys in any fashion. So you're always in my face. So I'm like, let's actually put them in my face and let's talk to them.
Oh, we appreciate it so much, man. As fans of what y'all do for 8 years, as a freshman in college, as being a fan and going on to the website, man, it's definitely an honor to sit here and share this platform with you guys, man. Straight up, man. We appreciate it for real.
Yeah, man. 100%.
Hey.
Yo, what up?
What's up, man? I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. I was seeing you like regularly every year, and then this year happened.
Yeah, I was traveling to different things and everything, and then borders are closed and everything. So for now,
the big smack in the face. So what has your 2020 experience been like, and how have you just made it through this year?
I mean, it's been crazy, bro. I mean, quarantine, long hours at work, because I do work another job, and what they're trying to do is get us to work less days but longer hours. So we're doing 12-hour shifts.
Oh man,
school has been not being able to send the kids to school has been crazy, because my wife works and I work, and it's like, what do we do with the kids? So it's been crazy, man. As far as music goes, I'm one of those artists that have a large catalog, so I've been blessed as far as there's still income coming in from the music.
Yeah, that's great.
A lot of my peers I know aren't able to perform, so they're taking a big hit. And of course I'm not able to perform either, but at least I got that catalog kind of helping me out. So it's been crazy, bro. I mean, hopefully it doesn't get any worse. You know what I mean? I know we're in the second wave now, but
I feel like that's the thing every month. It's like, all right, well, we got through, April, so May can't be that bad. And then May comes and you're like, oh crap, I wish we were still in April. It's just one thing after another.
Yeah.
So let me ask you. I want to start off with this one.
Okay.
You posted on your Instagram, and we talked a little bit about this with the crew just before. Love Black people as much as you love Black culture. Now,
Yeah.
to me and to you and a lot of people, that seems pretty self-explanatory. But I know that it could also be taken deeper and explained to other people. So can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Pretty much it's there as you guys said earlier, because I heard the conversation with the crew.
Yeah.
You have this music that has 80% probably around their white fan base, and the majority of people doing the music, probably 80% are Black. And there's, whenever we do the music, the fans love it. They cheer us on.
Mm-hmm.
But once we start talking about things that affect our community, a lot of times they say, hey, why don't you just, essentially they say, why don't you shut up and rap? Or why don't you shut up and preach the gospel, right? They don't want to hear us
Yeah.
talk about the things that are affecting our community. So when I said love Black people as much as you love Black culture, they like same thing in sports. The same thing that happens in hip hop happens in sports. You have football, for example, is a good example, right? I would wager that the majority of the fans are probably white, and the majority of the players are Black, right? I know there's a lot of white players and it's very multicultural, but the majority of the players,
Football and basketball.
basketball.
Right.
The reason why I mentioned football over basketball though is because I do believe that basketball would have a higher percentage of Black fans. I would imagine.
Okay.
I don't have the stats.
No,
But
I think you'd be right. You'd be right.
yeah, but it's crazy, man. Like the lack of love that's shown for us when we're dealing with our issues, when we're talking about our issues in our communities, or what we're being affected by, what's happening to us. It's really like off-putting, man. Like even as a Christian, even beyond music, when it comes to just being a part of the church, right? I grew
Mm-hmm.
up. I grew up in the Black church. Um, Eventually made my way to I guess, the Reformed church, which is majority white.
Right.
And it's crazy. Like you get there and you feel like, yeah, this is great. But then when stuff starts going down, it's silence. And you're like, man, like, did I make the right decision by coming here? I know I'm getting the theology, but where's the love, right? So that's pretty much what I meant by that in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's interesting. It kind of reminds me, and bringing it back to the sports thing and just Black culture in general. I think it was it Stan Van Gundy who tweeted the other day something about people complaining about sports being political, but it was always political because you open up the game with the national anthem or whatever it is.
Well,
So yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
no, I'm saying that's the thing, right? Like if you watch the football game, the opening game between Houston and Kansas City, the two teams had that moment at the beginning where
They locked, right?
and
Yeah,
people were actually booing, and
it's wild.
some people thought, oh, they're booing because they want to see the rivalry, right? But here's the thing: if they were doing that for cancer, to stop cancer or whatever, or if they were doing that to honor vets, or they were doing that for anything of that nature,
Yeah, yeah,
they would not be booing. They would not be booing. They were booing specifically because it was an issue, like because it was for Black people, right? So that's the thing. It's not that they have a problem with politics; it's that they have a problem with politics that are in favor of. I hate to say it, but it is what it is. That are in favor of Black people, pretty much.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it even goes back when they say, shut up and rap, shut up and dribble.
Exactly.
We don't care about hearing politics or whatever. All right, cool. We'll just take the national anthem out of the baseball game. Whoa,
Exactly.
whoa, what are you doing? That's patriotic. That's part of America. Yeah, but the national anthem is political. Like I don't go to a concert and listen to the national anthem. Like I don't go to whatever. Like if you're playing the national anthem of any country, regardless if it's just America, if it's "Oh Canada" or something like that, that's a political statement because you're opening up this entertainment with something political and you're telling people to be patriotic.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't pick and choose. Okay, cool. You want to take politics out? All right, let's get rid of the anthem. Yeah, and then maybe you'll have some equal ground. Okay, maybe I agree with you now. But if you're going to stand there with your hand over your heart or saluting or whatever it is, then why can't something political then happen next?
Yeah.
So yes, a legend. What's up, legend? Yeah, he said political idolatry.
I was about to
Is
comment
exactly
on that.
what it
Yeah,
is.
that's what it is. Yep.
Yeah, it's an interesting time for sure. I didn't get to add it to my questions, but you tweeted earlier today. You had a nice thread, and you said maybe you'll talk about that later. So do you want to talk about what you were tweeting today?
I tweeted today. About Black Lives Matter because okay,
Right.
so where that came from, where it was me and K Sade put out a video and for our newest single, and in the video, Rapzilla actually posted it on their YouTube
Tenet,
page.
right?
Yeah,
The Tenet video.
Yeah, and if you read the comments under that video, there's a lot of
Yeah.
comments. All lives, all caps. All lives matter. Black Lives Matter is the devil.
Because you had the mask, right?
I
was trying to figure out why, because I heard the song and I'm like, why is everyone commenting that? I didn't even know. And then I saw someone, why would you wear that mask? And I'm like, I was like, here we go.
Yeah, there's one
here we
where
go.
I was wearing a mask that said Black Lives Matter on it. So I got like a few comments. Like, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it was probably like, I don't know, like less than 10 comments, but it was all caps.
Enough.
Yeah, like
it was enough.
You know? And they were going off, man. Like, how can you? I can't support. Some people were saying I can't support you anymore, and so on and so on. So that really made me say, okay. Like I was thinking about it, and this morning I'm like, you know what, man? Let me hop on Twitter and just be vocal about it, because people need to. There's no point me sitting here getting upset and not giving people a chance to kind of hear where I'm coming from, right? So I put it on Twitter. I essentially said that Black Lives Matter, the organization, is problematic, right? Like when you actually go on the website and you, as a believer, when you start to see what the organization is trying to push, how they're trying to basically strip away the man's role in the household, and they're trying to push a LGBTQ agenda. That's facts. You can't really get around that. So then the question is, why would we support Black Lives Matter, or why would we put a hashtag Black Lives Matter? Why would we wear a shirt that says Black Lives Matter? That's because Black Lives Matter. And that hashtag actually started after Trayvon's murder in 2013. It was not attached to that specific organization. That organization rose up shortly after, and they adapted that hashtag.
They branded a tragic hashtag, actually,
exactly.
if you think about it.
Exactly. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to. This message is a biblical message. And I said that on Twitter too, because I said, we all know that all people were created in God's image, right? So then the question that somebody might have is, so then why not say all lives matter, right? But the reason why we're not saying all lives matter, why we're saying Black Lives Matter, is because all lives do in fact matter, all lives, but there's been evidence that not everyone is seeing that. You know what I mean? Like not everyone is basically Black people, Black lives are not always being included in that all. You know what I mean? So we're calling attention to the fact that, hey, we know that all lives are precious, all lives are created by God. So why can't you people, like, I don't say you people, that's bad. Why can't why can't people in general see that Black lives are part of that God, like Black lives are part of that creation that God created? You know what I mean? We're all equal. Why can't people see that? So we're calling attention. Hey, we're shining a light on the Black lives, because those are the ones that are currently being oppressed, right? Yes, all lives matter, but all lives can't matter until Black lives matter, right? It's that simple.
Right. It's like having a cancer walk for breast cancer, and then there's one for prostate cancer, there's one for whatever cancer. But right now, this is the cancer we're talking about. Exactly. You don't show up to breast cancer and be like, liver cancer.
Exactly.
Like, exactly. Cool. We agree with you.
Yeah.
But that march is over there. Yeah. We're doing something else here. So let me.
Oh, sorry.
Right.
I was gonna give,
go.
I was gonna give one more.
No,
example.
This is a conversation, man. It's not. Don't think of it like an interview. You talk over me, I'll talk over you, however it goes.
Well, I was just going to give one more example that I've heard. It's like me showing up to your birthday party, that, you know, we're celebrating you for your birthday, and I show up and I stand up and I'm like, hey, everybody, my birthday matters too, or I have a birthday too. And it's like, yeah, but right now we're not celebrating your birthday, we're celebrating Justin's birthday, right? So to me, it's mind-boggling. Like when when I read these comments and I see this stuff, it's mind boggling to me. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. So let me flip something on you a little bit because and I see it a lot. There is a lot of other black people that would disagree with you,
yes,
that would say black people don't have it hard or systematic racism isn't made up. So, I mean, is made up.
yeah.
So, like, what do you say to that? Like, is their experience wrong? Like, maybe that's their actual experience. How do you how do you navigate that?
Well, I was talking to somebody about this today because I'm in Canada, right?
Yeah.
And the majority of black people in Canada are the children, like we're people around my age, we're first generation Canadians. Our parents are immigrants from some other country. And
Right.
those other countries, whether it's the Caribbean, whether it's like directly from Africa, those other countries are our parents did not go through racism in those countries because they're all black,
Yeah.
right? So therefore now they had these kids and they didn't necessarily, in all cases, they didn't necessarily teach us here in Canada. A lot of us, we experienced racism. Like growing up, I experienced racism,
Yeah.
but there wasn't that like preparedness of our parents telling us about their experiences with racism and back home or whatever, and then them kind of preparing us. So
Hmm.
if you were fortunate or blessed enough to live in an area, because Canada is very multicultural, right? Especially Toronto. If you
Yeah.
were blessed or fortunate enough to live in an area where you had white friends, Asian friends, Indian friends, Arabic friends, and you were fortunate enough to live in an area that you didn't necessarily, you weren't all like you weren't, like exposed to as much racism as you would be if you were like in one of the hoods in the States, whatever.
Right.
You might grow up being like, I don't understand why everyone's making a big huff about this.
Yeah.
But that's where education comes in, and the more you start to, like, for example, in my experience, I grew up in a very multicultural area. And it's only now I'm looking back and I'm like, whoa, that was racist. Like the things I experienced were
Yeah.
super racist, but I didn't really know it at the time. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
some people
Yeah.
are not, some people unfortunately do not get to that level of education or exposure. For me too, part of it is me being an artist who is mostly active in the US market, where a lot of my peers, all my peers, most of my peers are in the US. Most of my fans are in the US. I've traveled and
Yeah.
done tours all over the US with Black American peers.
Yeah.
So I've been blessed to see more than the average dude from where I'm from, who's just kind of, who hasn't had a chance to really get out there. All they're seeing is what they see on CNN or whatever, right? They're not really getting out there and experiencing things. I've been to Southside Chicago. I've been to LA. I've been to all these places and I've seen things and I've experienced things, right? So a
Right.
lot of so a lot of it is just lack of exposure or lack of education or just refusal to, I don't know, maybe you're in an interracial relationship and you just don't want to be exposed to certain things because you know it's going to cause you to look at your spouse maybe a certain way or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I know. You have the people who champion Candace Owens or whoever it might be. And you're like, well, she's very educated. She's very smart. Of course, she knows what, she's talking about.
Yeah,
And at the end of the day, like you said, it kind of just comes down to experience.
yeah,
And I have a perfect example. This guy that I used to work with was from Jamaica, and he came to America, when he was a little older. So he didn't experience racism. So he was just like, why are the black people here,
yeah,
so
yeah,
angry about this stuff? Like, I don't get it.
yeah,
And then it happened to him.
yeah.
And he was just walking down the street. He went to go in his own car and the police arrested him.
Mm-hmm.
And, they detained him or whatever. And they're like, what are you doing in this neighborhood? This isn't your car. Cause it was a nice neighborhood in Manhattan. So they profiled him, what is this black guy doing in this nice neighborhood in Manhattan? He can't afford to live here.
Yeah,
Like one of
exactly.
those things. And he's like, this is my car. And he's showing them his ID and everything. And then he actually worked for a newspaper. He was a journalist and he accidentally dropped his reporter badge, and then they pick it up and they're like, oh, he's like, yeah, I told you guys I'm a reporter with the newspaper, blah, blah, blah. He's like, this would make an interesting story.
Yeah,
And long story short, they let him go because they got scared. He wrote a story about it in a New York City newspaper.
mm-hmm.
The story went huge. He won a lawsuit, and he got to be a hero for a second. But he now knows. He's like, all right, I came here from somebody else, from somewhere else. I didn't get it, and now I get it. So that's kind of the reality of things. You might not believe it, but when it happens to you, you're gonna have to change your mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. So obviously, are people in Canada also known as African Americans because it's North American, or is that just a U.S.
It's
U.S.
mainly
thing?
it's mainly a U.S. thing. The problem that I always, or the funny thing, I always talk to my wife about this and we laugh about it, is in Canada there's an ongoing. It's kind of in flux. Like the official name would be Black Canadians, I guess, but
Okay.
it's always in flux because, for example, people have said African Canadian, and then the Caribbeans get upset. They're like, I'm not African, which is stupid because you're African, you know. But they're, oh,
Yeah.
I'm not African, right? And then they say, okay, you know, black Canadian, and some people are like, I don't like the word black, and it's just like it's very in flux.
Yeah.
I personally don't like being referred to as African American because I feel like it kind of takes away from my unique experience. But I'm not mad if somebody in America calls me African American. If a white person or somebody who's not black calls me African American in Canada, I feel like okay, you just watched the video because we all got the same videos that y'all got in America about.
Yeah.
Oh, black people are called African Americans and be colorblind, and we watched those same videos, right? Because they just basically gave us those videos in Canada. But yeah, to answer your question more directly, there's not an official name that everybody has agreed on.
Yeah.
But if you go to Google, you'll see Black Canadian.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people think about these things,
Yeah.
but I'm always thinking about it. Like, I was like, there's definitely people who will like visit Italy and they'll be like, oh, you know, there was more African Americans in Italy than I thought. It was like, no, they're not African Americans.
Yeah.
They're African Italians or
Yeah.
you know, whatever it might be.
It's like when Black Panther came out, a lot of people were like, oh, it's Marvel's first African American superhero, and it's like, well, technically he's African.
Wakanda. Yeah, he's from Wakanda.
Yeah, from Wakanda. You know, it's fictional, but I mean, he's not
Yeah.
American at all, right? So
I mean, and you can be a white African American, you know, you could be a guy from Africa, like South Africa, and you move to America and you're African American, technically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found that interesting. I was like, so what are you technically in Canada?
Black.
But you're black.
But a lot of white people in Canada have a problem and a very hard time saying black. So they'll describe you and they'll like do acrobatics to describe somebody.
He's got a beard. He was wearing a hat.
They'll do acrobatics to describe somebody as like without saying the word black, right? It's crazy.
It's because you guys are too, I said it, I've joked with you before. It's because you guys are too polite. That's the problem.
It could be. It could be.
So you spoke about this a little bit, kind of like the black experience in Canada. Mm-hmm. What are some of the differences that you've experienced, maybe just growing up in Canada, and then you come to the U.S. and it's like, are there any like night and day sort of scenarios?
The main difference between Canada and the U.S. and my experience in Canada and my experience in the U.S. is in the U.S. Black people, the majority of African Americans migrated from the South, right?
Mm-hmm.
Up north. And up north to cities like New York and Philadelphia, whatever, but they started in the South. And I would say that the majority of the overt racism in the U.S. takes place in the South, right?
In the South,
It's all spread over. I mean, Minnesota's obviously in the North, but majority of it takes place in the South, right? Because of the history there. The difference in Canada now is where most of us, except for the Black Scotians who are mostly slaves who made it to Canada and they stayed in Scotia or so on, whatever, right? With the exception of them, the majority of Blacks in Canada are immigrants who came
from other places. Yeah.
And they came smack dab to the most metro, pretty much to the New York of Canada, which is Toronto, right?
Yeah.
That's where the majority of us are. So the difference is we've experienced, like me personally, I've experienced lots of racism, but it hasn't been as overt as it would be, for example, or as it has been when I've been on tour and I've stopped in certain states to get gas.
That's crazy.
And
crazy.
And I'm like, whoa, I've only been here for 5 minutes and I've already experienced looks, people saying, you know, get out of here. I've already experienced that just being on tour, driving
Wow.
through the American countryside. And usually when I get off in places, like I remember getting off in somewhere in I can't remember. We're always stopping for gas and we don't know where we are until we ask somebody, right? But
Yeah.
I've been on tour many times in the States where I've experienced that overt racism in the South. And I've been to places like New York, you don't experience it as much, right? Well, Toronto is like the New York of Canada. So what's happening now though is because of the cost of living in Toronto, a lot
Yeah.
of Black people in the Toronto area are being forced to move out to the country areas. And then now we're starting to hear the stories of racism and people just being overt with it, right?
Yeah.
But growing up in Toronto, it was there for sure. Like I look back in my past and I'm like, man,
Yeah.
that was racist, but it wasn't as overt as it would be in more of the rural areas.
Okay. That makes sense. Now,
Yeah.
one of the things I saw, and I know it just happened, so I don't know if you have that many thoughts on it, but they announced the Black Entrepreneurship Program in Canada.
Yeah, yeah.
So how has that been received by the Black community, actually by the country as a whole?
So black people are like, well, the ones I've been around and the ones I've talked to are like, it's about time, right? Like they're like we're excited about it, because we export a lot of the biggest artists. I'm sorry about Tory Lanez. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry about Tory Lanez, y'all. But but a lot.
You got Drake.
Yeah, we got Drake. We got The Weeknd. We got Party Next Door. Bieber, even though he's not Black, he still represents Black culture in a way. Whatever.
He was in a Drake video. So he got in there.
Yeah, Lisa Kira. So we're exporting all these urban, whether they're Black or whether they do Black music. We're exporting so much of our artists to the U.S. and they're becoming huge in the U.S., signing to U.S. labels. And I think that Canada has finally woken up and been like, man, we got all these urban acts, all these Black acts doing Black music, even people who are not Black doing Black music. It's time for us to start investing, but not only the music, but just like in everything. Just like the NBA is filled with Black NBA players. My boy's going off right now, Jamal Murray. He's from the Toronto area. You know what I mean? So you got these guys. They're all doing everything in the U.S. and I think Canada's finally like, all right, it's time for us to start building an infrastructure here because everybody here leaves. All of the Black talent leaves here to go to the U.S. because we don't have an infrastructure here. We don't really do anything for them here as far as like financially, you know what I mean? We're not really supporting them. Drake tried to get signed to multiple Canadian labels and they all turned him down. No, that's it. I mean, it's like, I feel good about it. We'll see what happens. But there is a backlash though, because you asked how Canadians in general are feeling about it. I've seen so much backlash from mostly white, but just in general, non-Black people, Canadians, saying, what about us? That's not fair. Why are you going to, like the same thing you see in America, the same, well, all people should get this and what about my business? What about, you know what I mean? Like I've seen so much of that in Canada. And Canada, listen, Pascal, the Raptors just lost, right? They just got eliminated from the playoffs. Pascal Siakam played like garbage. And if anyone who doesn't think that Canada's racist or that doesn't have like a lot of racism, just go look at the petitions, the comments and the petitions about Pascal Siakam. Go back to Africa, send them back to Africa, like the AP is, like that's coming from Canadians. So, you know what I mean?
That's wild, man. All right. So before I let you go, I want to give you some final thoughts because I know you've had a lot to say. So is there anything that you wanted to talk about or kind of discuss that's been on your mind that you feel like you should talk about?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm just like, I feel like I've kind of like a fire kind of woke up in me. I've always been somebody who was a little cognizant of what was going on. But I feel like a fire has woken up in me lately where I'm just like, yo, whether it's Canada, whether it's the States, whether it's the Caribbean, I'm just kind of thinking like, yo, all this protesting and marching and all of that is all good, but we need to. I'm not going to go as far as to say I'm like a Pan-Africanist or I'm like a Garveyist or something, but I am on a wavelength right now where I'm like, yo, we need to look internally and start, instead of trying to get the attention of it's like the crew was saying earlier where they were like, yo, artists are starting to realize that it's okay if you lose fans. It's not really about that. It's about saying what needs to be said and doing what needs to be done and whatever.
Hmm.
I feel the same way as far as my views on how us as Black people in general, whether we're in, like I said, America, Canada, the Caribbean, whatever, even Africa, we need to kind of start looking inwards instead of trying to get the attention of the people out there who are like oppressing us, instead of trying to get their attention. Hey, love me, respect me, respect me. That's all good. That needs to be done. But I think we need to say, you know what? Let's just do what we got to do. And then the respect will come because they'll see, yo, we are doing our own thing. We're building our own thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're building our own communities. We're building our own establishments. And I understand that in the past, when Black people in America have tried to build their own thing, it's been burnt to the ground. Leaders have been killed. I understand that, but we need to just get back up, and start doing our own thing and educating, like, just turning our attention to our communities. So that's what
Hmm.
I don't know exactly how to accomplish that. I'm still working on it, but that's where I'm at right now. And I'm like on fire with that right now. Like I'm like, yo, I'm contacting people. I'm trying to do things,
So you'll figure it out because you have that passion. When you have that passion, you usually figure it out. Drop your handles. Where can everybody follow you?
Yeah,
Listen to your music.
it's pretty simple. Twitter and Instagram is at Dru Bex. I'll type it here. Just at DRUBEX. My Facebook page I got scammed out of it, so that's gone until I get another one.
Yeah, I was trying to tag you, and I was like, I can't.
Yo,
I was like, what is this page?
I got scammed, man. I got scammed. I don't even want to get into it, but I got scammed out of my page. I had a verified page
Ah,
and
man.
everything. But yeah, for the most part, I'm always on Twitter, obviously, and Instagram. I got new music coming out. Me and K Sade are about to drop like a crazy project that I'm really proud of. So yeah, just
UFO tofu.
UFO tofu, and yo, we put so much thought into it. I put a tweet out there the other day. All the tracks that we dropped so far are palindromes. Like
Yeah,
you can read it the same backwards as frontwards, and even UFO tofu itself, the title, you can read it frontwards and backwards. It's read the same way. We got a bunch more tracks, and they're all the same. And there's a lot of creative things that we did because me and K Sade are both, pretty eclectic, creative individuals. So I can't wait for y'all to hear it, man. I can't wait.
it's too much thinking for this year, Drew. But all right, Drew, man, thank you so much for blessing the chat.
Thanks for having me,
It
man.
was great to have you. It was great to see you again and talk to you again. Hopefully soon, whatever soon might look like. I could see you at some sort of event again.
Hopefully.
All right, man.
All right, man.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Peace. Here we go. Mogli the Iceburg. With the craziness of 2020, what has your year been like from COVID through civil unrest till today, till now?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think everybody probably has pretty similar answers, but I mean, nobody anticipated this year going like this. Music plans definitely. It's just like whole floor fell out. It affects side hustles, affects relationships. I mean, like the church I've been going to hasn't met in person since early March.
Yeah.
So in Tennessee, I mean, like they have lots of different areas with different regulations and stuff, but the church I've been going to is like right downtown, and they have like extra regulations just in that area. So even though a lot of places are kind of more chill, that is like they just haven't been meeting. So yeah, man. Honestly though, to me, it's this year's been great. I mean, like I've had like a great life. I've had like I made a lot of cool music. I've grown a lot as a person. I've developed a lot of healthy habits. So it's always weird. It's like all this existential crisis, and I'm like, you know what? I'm doing all right.
And I think that's okay. I had this conversation with Mitch Durrell a couple of weeks ago. He said the same thing. He's like, obviously there's a lot of craziness going on in the world, but like 2020 was a good year for me. And you almost kind of feel bad saying it a little bit because so many people aren't having a good year. Right. But I think it's okay to celebrate your victories when, everything's pretty crappy around you. You should be able to like share
one way or the other,
right.
And I think everybody's kind of bracing for, the ride not to be over with. So it's like, I think it's been a healthy check for priorities for a lot of people, even though it's been very, very rough. And unfortunately, it might keep getting rough. Who knows?
Yeah. And for you, were you able to get involved in any, protest, community, dialogues, anything having to do with the church and an outreach?
Yeah. So, I mean, Nashville's been pretty chill with stuff. There was one night where things got kind of out of hand, and a bunch of people tried to burn down the courthouse and
Wow.
went and busted up some of the main streets downtown and stuff. And that was very frustrating and stuff. But there were also a lot of really good just peaceful shows of solidarity and support and stuff. So I try not to put myself in situations that I would deem unwise. And in certain situations, I think I'm a pretty level-headed guy.
Yeah.
And I'm a pretty good communicator, but I also don't want to put myself in a position where somebody's trying to fight me, or or I might get overwhelmed with passion or something, and just place myself in a situation that is not wise. So so I've definitely used some discernment there. But I mean, there was in Nashville, there's been like a protest. It's not going on anymore, but they were out front of the courthouse for like 70 days like straight. And
wow.
Me and my friend would just take some walks at night and go and just trying to talk to the people out there. And there's always a different crowd, and trying to feel the temperature and see what's going on. And I mean, it never got the same answers twice. It was
that's the thing with this show too. I might ask
plethora of viewpoints and people that were more or less rational or more or less informed. So sometimes sometimes those experiences were very encouraging. Sometimes they were very discouraging. But I think that the most important things I've been trying to really just stress for other people too is that like social media and stuff cannot compensate for actual human relationships. And I think it's really, really important that people that don't agree hop on the phone or get some coffee and have some hard conversations. Because I mean, one, you're just forced to see the humanity in people that disagree with you, and see the nuance. And even well-intentioned things, man, when they're happening, even if you're texting somebody privately, you can't discern tone, you can't discern really the attitude or the energy that somebody's kind of coming at you with, or really try to see their intentions. But when you're looking somebody in the eye, or even if you're hearing their voice, I think it in general makes conversations a lot more productive.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many memes or long diatribes of a Facebook post that you could post, and where I was like, wow, you completely changed my life and everything I ever thought of with this post that you shared on Facebook. I can't believe this. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And you need that again. It was another focus of this show, have a face-to-face with somebody every single week. The questions may be similar, but everyone is having a different experience, and you're going to get a different answer every time.
Right.
And a different understanding of things. So I kind of made it that point, I need Black, I need white, I need Latino, I need men, I need women, I need successful artist with an indie artist, a mid-level person, a marketing guy, whoever it might be, because everyone's perspective on these things counts. Everybody, all lives matter, this situation, but all perspectives matter on situations like this, because everybody is going through something that's similar.
For sure.
So for you, as someone who uses your platform to talk about a variety of things, and you never shy away from that, so I give you credit for that.
Yeah, people that don't follow me on Twitter don't really know the full extent.
Right.
Instagram is my cordial music outlet, but Twitter,
right.
that's where you get the the actual.
You get it inside your head. Yeah, I scanned through your Instagram, but when I was preparing my questions, I was like, there's nothing here. There's just his Bond villain. There's just his Bond villain pictures and him doing cool stuff. Let's go to Twitter. Oh, okay.
Oh.
So, this is the guy. So sometimes you don't have a popular opinion.
Yeah.
So what is your driving force to share that popular opinion, and how do you kind of, as you said before, read the temperature of like, now's a good time to drop this opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think for one, it's not that I don't care about what people think, but I feel a certain responsibility, because sometimes people do place a lot of weight. A lot of people know me as somebody that has like a tempered opinion, somebody that reads a lot,
Right.
somebody that has a foot in a lot of different cultures, has a lot of different perspectives that I engage with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think one of the biggest problems just with our time and everything is people get so built into just a bubble of
Right.
affirming voices of groupthink, that you find these people building some pretty untenable, unreasonable worldviews just based off a bunch of people that already agree with each other, just hyping each other up into whatever political or social opinion that is going on at the time, and that's true on all types of sides of spectrums,
Right.
stuff like that. So really, I mean, like I have a commitment to truth, and people that know me well also generally like see me as somebody that changes my opinion pretty frequently based on like where the data is at, what my best understanding of truth is, and I try to do as much of a proactive job at trying to like see through my own bias or see through my own prejudices to try to get a bigger picture of what's going on outside of just like my individual experience, or rose tinted glasses that I might see things. So every now and then it's like I'll see things and it's like, man, I see both sides of the echo chambers, and I see one echo chamber that is getting amplified and in a feedback cycle, and I gotta just I feel like it's moral for me to break out of that and just be like, hey, like some of these things aren't actually truthful, and like for people that do profess to have a similar worldview, to people that want to see positive change, people that want to see solutions to all these issues that we're facing, it's like we have to really try to identify what truth is. So I mean, like that to me is much more important than honestly what anybody thinks about me, to be honest.
Yeah, and to your credit, you'll have that argument, and I think it is important to kind of have that flexibility. You missed your calling as an actual unbiased journalist. You can do that when you're a lot of life,
man. I feel like
you could do that when you're older.
Mogli is going to be a different type of animal.
Yeah, once the long hair maybe starts falling out a little, and you can't scream as hard or jump into the crowd as hard, maybe you'll write some books and do some articles.
No, it's funny, but like I just recently made it a goal of mine. I want to write a book someday, but like my girlfriend was asking me like, what would you write a book on? And I told her, I'm like, really, I mean, like I have to become like an expert in something first. Like I don't actually have anything to offer the world that people that have dedicated their lives to all these subjects, 10, 20 years haven't already written upon. So first goal is to actually gain some sort of critical understanding about an important issue to where I have something of unique value that I can add. And then, I want to work towards that.
And I believe you'll do it. Just knowing you, and I will read that book. I'll write the forward for you if you want.
A copy.
Send me the copy. I can edit it and I'll write the forward.
Yes, I'll need to edit it. Yes.
So we've had this conversation. Actually, this is the first conversation I've ever had with you. Was find the idea of like a racial identity for
Right.
a mixed person. You know, your song "You Can't Hold Me Down" spoke to me.
Right.
You know, people will look at us and they'll be like, "Oh, Justin's a white guy," and then Mowgli, kind of in the song, you're kind of ambiguous. Like, what is Mowgli? You know, you're Mexican and white, but you're mostly Mexican. I'm Puerto Rican and white, and I'll tell everybody that I'm Puerto Rican, even though my last name is Sarachik and I'm very clearly white. But you know,
But
technically,
you have an experience with your own identity, with two different cultures, two different worlds that isn't evident to how a lot of people will just label you
right,
off a glance, right?
right. I'm a white kid from Staten Island. You would just assume, if you didn't know my last name, probably Italian, because everybody I grew up around was Italian or Irish or whatever. So we have unique experiences because technically we're mixed race, and people will be like, well, no, they're not. And be like, well, technically we are. So I guess maybe dive into sort of that like racial identity that you struggled with a little bit, and how you kind of came out of that and made that your identity. I think that's a super important topic for a lot of people.
Yeah, man. Well, I feel like and it's interesting, man, because like the people that like you that connected with You Can't Hold Me Down, there's a whole like little micro tribe of people. And specifically, it was funny because like there's a whole group of people that like would DM me off that song and still do every now and then. They're like, yo, it's so crazy. Like, I'm Colombian and German, or I'm Nicaraguan and Norwegian, and everybody thinks I'm Arab, and like everything. I've never heard somebody like articulate this type of feeling. I thought I was the only one, you know.
Yeah,
and
it's such a special song, man, for real.
To that point, you know, I think for people that do have a blended ethnicity or a blended culture, their life can be confusing, especially in like when you're trying to figure that out. Because for the most part, you know, until you reach a certain age, people don't really think about like your cultural identity or your racial identity. But you know, as you start to develop into an adult, into your own person, you know, and you encounter more of the world on your own, it's like, oh, wait a second, I didn't realize everybody wasn't like me, or why don't I fit into these tribes or these categories that, or these binary situations that the world tries to paint, you know? So I think, and it's interesting for Latino people especially, like almost by definition, like that, like the average Latino or Hispanic person is like in itself a mixed race ethnicity, right?
Yeah.
Like the average Latino in the United States is about a fourth Native American, with 5 to 10% African, and the rest a plethora of European like genetics, right?
Spain, France, Portugal, you know, whatever it might be.
Right. So it's like just the existence of Latinos in themselves kind of shatters a lot of like these super racialized worldviews and identities that have, to me, I think it's very unfortunate that they've become more prevalent as we've gotten older. They've become more prevalent in this day and age. You know, it's like people will try to label all people of a certain ethnicity, like, oh, you all have experienced the world in the same way, or you all have the same political opinions, or you're a monolith in a particular way. But it's like, how does that work when you're not even like, your identity isn't comprehensively something, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that just offers, I mean, I've always had like a very unique, nuanced perspective with all of these issues, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And it's just, that's kind of the nature of everything. Like, as much as you say, you know, don't judge people how they look, it's like, but that's all you have on that surface level. Like, that's a white person, that's a black person, this person's tall, this person's short, that's an Asian person. Like, you have an expectation of what that person is based on what they look like.
Right.
And Latinos could look anywhere from very, very, very dark, or they could be like me.
Yeah.
or
And
like
you know, like
yeah,
the crazy thing I've always had kind of fun with it. And I mean, it's more serious now with everything going on, but
yeah,
like I've always called it like elastic ethnicity. Like
yeah,
it's like if I wear certain types of clothes, or if I wear my hair a certain type of way, or my facial hair a certain type of way, it drastically changes how people perceive me. You know, because and
yeah,
that's what people will say. It's like, well, you know, it doesn't really matter what on your ancestry DNA is. You know, what really matters is how the world perceives you, because that's how the world treats you. But like for me, the world has perceived me in a lot of different ways, and I've learned that how, depending on how I present myself, the world perceives me drastically different. You know, it's like I can lean into something and say, oh, he looks like he's Italian, or oh, he looks like he's Native American, or oh, he looks like an Arab, or you know, like oh, he looks like he's North African. Like, you know, any number of different things. It's like, and to me, it's like I've always been like, it's like, oh man, like look how futile, look how poor masters these identities are. You know, um, yeah.
you could have been a good character actor in Hollywood. They just
Right,
throw any
right,
role at you, and all you have to do is just change your hair.
yeah, right,
Um, it's funny. My great grandparents. So my great grandfather was essentially black, and
right. Same.
my great grandmother was like milk white. Both from Puerto Rico. Both came from Puerto Rico to America. Then they had 12 kids.
Yep.
And when you look at a picture of the kids, it's like one of those color scales where it starts from white and it goes to dark,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
dark to white. And every single one of them is a different color. Every single one of them had like 5 or 6 kids that's a different color. So my mother's family just so happened to be like very, very light compared to like some of her other family. And then my dad is white. My dad a Polish is Polish, but grew up in a Jewish household,
mm-hmm.
so very white.
Yeah.
But I don't know anything really about my Jewish or Polish heritage, because I was with my Puerto Rican family that has like 1,000 people in it
Dude,
every
it's
weekend.
so crazy too when you think about your heritage and you think about
Yeah,
types of ethnicity that we latch onto. And you know, this is something that I've been thinking, or kind of like trying to come to terms with recently, because it's like you have exponentially more uh, ancestors the further you go back. Like by definition,
right.
everybody has 2 parents and 4 grandparents and 8 great grandparents,
Yep.
16 great, and then 32 the next, and then before you
Yeah,
know, it's like But like most of us, when you go through any degree of length, it's like we actually don't know who a lot of our great grandparents are. And then maybe you might have some information to one of them, and then that's like who you champion, right? So for
right.
me, it's like I had a great grandpa that was a full-blooded Aztec Native American, and I knew more things about him than I did the others, so I championed him really hard. But then the other
Exactly.
day, I was like, oh, actually, I had 16, great grandparents, and it's like he's only 1/16 of the picture, but that's just where I chose to lay my stock and identity in. You know, um, yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, like my father had like 13 people in his family, the entire family. And I might find 13 people just, going to my cousin's house one day, and they're all related to me. And that was just one family.
Yeah,
So it's like it's funny how, even, just who you're around, like that's what you identify more as. And I mean, it makes sense. It definitely makes sense.
and what's really
Okay.
interesting too, man, is like the concepts of ethnicity are actually like they're objective, but they're totally arbitrary. So you were
Yeah.
born in the United States, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so immediately both of our ethnicities are American.
Right.
Were your parents born in the United States?
Yeah.
Okay, so that generation too, our parents are also American, and so are me and No Big Deal. We're both American, and our parents are American, and their parents'
Yeah.
are American.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if you want to go back all the way to the beginning, we're also the same. So it's like, where do you arbitrarily draw a line back in your ethnicity, where all of a sudden that's what defines your race? Is it 6 generations? Is it 10 generations? Is it 15 generations? Because like immediately most of us are the same, and at least in the United States, And then ultimately we're also the same, but then we have all this culture, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of draws these arbitrary lines that creates these titles that we latch onto, you know. Just think it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of an American thing too. Like America is one of the only places where you come here and you're just like, what are you? Oh, I'm Italian or I'm Irish
Right.
or I'm Norwegian. But if you go to those countries, what are you? I'm German or I'm,
Yeah.
you know, South African or
Yeah,
Guyanese
America
or
is one of
whatever.
the only
No,
countries
no,
that have a
but what
long-term
are you?
ethnicity.
But it's like, but what are you actually? Yeah, I'm French. Like I'm from, yeah,
Yeah,
but you're Puerto Rican. No, 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 but I'm actually French. We
Yeah.
never just come out and say we're American unless we're in someone else's country.
Right.
It's like, oh, I'm an American.
Right. That's so true.
I'm not going to be a tourist in Italy and be like, oh, you know, where are you from? I'm from America, but actually I'm Puerto Rican and Polish.
Right. Right.
It's interesting, man. All right, so I have my theories, and of course, I believe I know the answer, but I'd love to hear it from you. Why do you feel like CHH, in terms of artists, is more accessible to non-black artists than almost any other genre?
Hmm.
In a okay, let me rephrase it. In a hip hop normally is a black dominated genre. Like in
Right.
mainstream hip hop, there's not a lot of white artists. It's like Eminem and then, you know, Mac Miller lower,
Yeah.
and then anyone else. But in CHH, you have everybody, Latinos, more women MCs, more white MCs, and they kind of all just coexist together. You have any theories on that?
Well, I mean, one, I think so. Like the way that Christian hip hop develops, you know, from a logistical and cultural standpoint, is fundamentally different than the way that hip hop develops from a cultural
Yeah.
standpoint. You know, so it's like you have certain types of infrastructure that exists that kind of put people on in terms of a mainstream hip hop way. A lot of it comes via Atlanta. A lot of it comes via things that are actually predominantly like run by certain cultures. You know, I think Atlanta is a great example of that.
Yeah.
With 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 Christian hip hop though, and I mean it's kind of changing, but really the infrastructure that allows people to have careers comes from churches. You know, so right off the bat, you're playing in it. You're kind of playing by different rules, right? And then thankfully, you know, I think it's awesome how diverse Christian hip hop is. You know that there's a lot of different. I think per capita, we're just more diverse. It's not just like Christian hip hop is just like a white genre. Like we have, I think we have a disproportionate amount of Asians and Latinos and Pacific Islanders and all types of different people that are represented and have a voice, and I think that's dope. I think what's you know, you have cultural barriers between specifically like I think people I like what people see as quote unquote blackness, you know, that if you compare it to the mainstream, just kind of play by different rules, you know?
Yeah.
So, and Christian hip hop is just very unique in the sense that like no other subgenre of music, I mean, except for like other subgenres of Christian music, have like this philosophical, theological component.
True.
Like no other genres of music are like dissenting your content and the uh, the things you post on Twitter to see like, oh, does this square with my faith and how that intersects with my political beliefs, or you know, all types of stuff like that. And you know, so one of the trends recently is that, you know, in America, evangelical Christianity is kind of the majority opinion, and a lot of evangelical people don't know that there are other viewpoints with Christianity. They don't know that there are other cultures that like still believe in Jesus but do a lot of things differently, or see certain constants as things that are just different. So I think there's an ignorance perspective, and then yeah, there, I mean, like you have strong correlations with people's political leanings, you know, especially with evangelical Christianity. You know, I mean, like as a voting bloc, they're going to vote predominantly Republican, you know. So for an artist, if you're tweeting a lot about critical race theory and tweeting a lot about liberation Christianity or liberation gospel mindsets, or even kind of like more worldwide approaches to faith that aren't just uniquely American and evangelical, you know, you're going to have a little bit of a tension there.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone said not everyone voted for Trump, for example.
Yeah,
correct. Yeah. Also,
yeah. If you looked at who Christian artists, Christian rappers vote for compared to like the demographic of people that book for, you know, youth group shows, is going to be a drastically different group of people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's kind of what Dru Bex was saying too. As far as like with Black culture, like you want to celebrate Black culture, but you don't want to support it in that terms. Like there's a bunch of issues that most artists can agree upon, because they're kind of all in it together, and the fans see a totally different thing, and they want that to be separated. It's always kind of going to be this pull. A thing I wanted to add as far as the diversity of Christian hip hop is you also have to remember how Christian hip hop became Christian hip hop. Like it had its Black founders like a Stephen Wiley or Michael Peace, but who brought it to the attention of the white evangelicals? That was Toby Mac. No, it wasn't KJ52. Before KJ52 was Toby Mac, and it was DC Talk.
DC Talk, yeah.
And he was the face, the rapper. Like they had a Black person in the group, but the Black guy wasn't the rapper. Right. He was the singer. So since the white guy presented it, it was like, oh, this is okay. We could allow this in our church because it's a white guy doing it.
Right. No, bro, it's crazy. Yep. I mean, because like honestly, that was a little bit before my time. Like I was super young when DC Talk was like, you know, really.
Listen, I'm not that old. I was pretty young too. I just did my research.
But I remember, bro, at my church, like back when I was a little kid, I remember the way people treated KJ52 versus T-Bone. Mm-hmm. And it was like, whoa, T-Bone was like, ooh, can we listen to that? Like, look at, on his cover, he has cornrows. Like, he looks like one of those drug dealers. He's in a fur coat.
He looks like a vato. Like, he's
Yeah, man. So, yeah, there's definitely validity to that. And, you know, I think one of the things, though, I think that a lot of people mistake sometimes just even racial issues for cultural issues. And not that there's not a tremendous overlap between racial identity and ethnic identity and culture, but you know, like if you present a worldview that is in alignment to where people at, they generally accept it, regardless of what you look like, you know. Mm-hmm. But in the same way, you know, if a Christian rapper comes out here with Bernie bars, you know, like you know, he's gonna catch flack for that no matter what he looks like. And you know, I think that's kind of like, I think that's a common undertone in a lot of the discussion that people just don't really understand that nuance, you know. And then they fall into the fallacy that different races or different ethnicities are a cultural monolith, and everybody thinks the same and everybody has the same opinions, you know. And that's why you have people like Joe Biden feel like, you know, like, oh, well, if you don't vote for me, you're not Black. Like he just saw that as such a given that was a safe thing to say. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, it's wild. Somebody said, would you add Kirk Franklin to that? Kirk Franklin is not really CHH. He's his own. He's gospel. He's his own animal, and gospel has kind of always existed.
They
on
its
own
ecosystem.
On its own.
Thrive.
Yeah.
But I mean, Kirk definitely, you know, he broke into the
he brought it mainstream.
CCM, you know.
Yeah, Kirk is important for other reasons.
Mac, honestly.
Yeah, and for something that KJ52 did, because you mentioned him before, and KJ's a good buddy of mine. He was around the time where Christian hip hop was starting to get popular, but they were only allowed to tour with rock bands. So if you look at KJ52, you're like, oh man,
Pillar.
Yep, this this guy was popping in the early 2000s,
Yeah.
but he wasn't doing any hip hop tours. He was on tour with Pillar. He was on tour with Thousand Foot Crutch.
Yeah.
And that's why with Emery, like with these emo screamo bands, and then it's like now opening up KJ52 for a hardcore band, and it's like what?
No,
because
dude,
because the ecosystem didn't exist yet.
Bro, I went to a 1,000 Foot Crutch concert when I was like 10, and I remember I loved KJ52 back then, but like the room
we all
was
did
not going for him, bro. Like he started rapping, and like they weren't playing instruments, and people looked at him like an alien, dog. Like, and I remember like I felt embarrassed to like nod my head because the room was that hostile towards hip hop. What a time!
And it was funny because all those rock bands were fronted by white guy rappers.
Yeah, right.
Your Thousand Foot Crutch was rapping when they started. Pillar was on that Fireproof album was amazing. You had your POD was like really rapping back then too.
Yep.
And then it was just like, so here's another rapper, and then it was like, wait a second. So KJ actually had to go through like a ton of adversity and kind of go wade through the mud for us to get a Reach Records.
This conversation, and I'm like, ooh, gosh, man, like people should give him his flowers for going through that, man.
He's an OG. He saw it all. Cross movement. Asking about cross movement. Cross movement wasn't too early, but again, cross movement was an African American group, so it didn't hit like the friendly nature of a KJ52 would, who didn't, kind of hit on the Black experience. KJ was,
and a lot of it was just like, even where hip hop was at in the culture,
Yeah.
Because I remember back when cross movement was starting, even Black pastors was like, yo, we can't have that hip hop, man. Like, that's the devil's music. That's like NWA. That's like all this stuff, all this craziness that we see.
Yeah.
We can't bring Ice Cube into the church. So it's like a lot of it was just like hip hop was so raw, and people were like, they didn't understand the legitimacy. They didn't understand the art. They couldn't separate like the art from the lifestyle. Like people just didn't figure it out yet.
Yeah. I interviewed Tadashi once, and Tadashi didn't come about till the mid 2000s.
Yep.
And even he said he was told, you can't do that here, or you have to go perform in the backyard, or you have to be in the youth center, but you can't come in the sanctuary. And we're talking about 2005, 2006, 2007.
Yeah. That's
so Reach Records can get their flowers too for taking it out of the arena rock and creating its own hip hop infrastructure. And then you go back, 30, 35 years for the pioneers of CHH, and they experienced even worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite a fun history. I've written about some of it. So if you want to go on Rapzilla, check out, I have 2 articles about Stephen Wiley, about D-Boy Rodriguez, about MCGG, D-Boy's sister, who was the first signed female rapper. So CHH sexism, that hashtag that happened 3 or 4 years ago, it happened to her first about 30 years ago. So check that stuff out. All right, I'll give you this. This will be your last question because we've covered a lot of stuff. One of the greatest threats to our generation now, and a huge focal point, is mental health and just depression and people who can't deal with stuff, especially everything that's going on in the world too. You've never shied away from that in your music. Like, you've progressively touched that more and more. Your sound has changed more and more as you've gotten into it, touching on that rock stuff that you were listening to in your KJ52 days, probably.
Yeah.
as you got older. So like for you, what's it like kind of operating in this hip hop space, but focusing on this taboo subject in Christian realm, and a lot of times in hip hop, I guess, until recently? I know it's more prevalent.
Because it's very, I think from just a subject matter, it's very like not taboo anymore.
Right.
I can't tell you how many T-shirts I've seen from so many bands that say like, it's okay to not be okay. Like, so it's
Marty.
It's mainstream to the point of parody, on this. But what's up, Marty? But
Marty dropping in.
There's still like, definitely sonically people don't know where to place it at, you know. And you know, it's always just interesting because with like Christian music, like in this certain like finite demographic, to some people it's going to be like the most groundbreaking thing in the world, and
Yeah.
other people it's like, oh well, I wish you would have died instead of Little Peep, you know, like.
I remember you telling me that.
But you know, I think the biggest thing that's music is very cathartic to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I always try to like grow as an artist. So like honestly, you know, like I was just trying to like in an angsty season for a while, and it was like, you know what, I'm gonna just be like very transparent, and I'm not gonna be ashamed of anything that I'm feeling, and I'm just gonna lean into it. And you know, there were artists that came along that kind of set a precedent that like, okay, yeah, you can just do anything musically, or you can do anything within the course of hip hop now, and it goes. You know, so there was a mindset shift that came along with that, and you know, like it's just been experimenting. But I think that it's important that people just like try to, if you're an artist, like it's great to be real, but like especially if you're championing like yourself as a Christian artist, like there should be some sort of resolution. You know what I'm saying? You know, so like it's like for me, like yeah, I get moody, I get angsty, I get depressed sometimes. I go through seasonal depression. I think mostly I go through circumstantial depression, as most people do, you know. But I also know that, you know, my life is valuable, and you know, that there's the creator of the universe loves me and cares about me, and you know, that changes my worldview on things different from Lil Uzi Vert, or you know, I'm trying to think of more artists that are alive. I just keep thinking of dead artists, but you know,
that's the sad part about it.
No, I know.
They make the music for depression, but then they don't overcome it, and that's the hope part that you're saying that's missing. You have the hope,
right? And so it's like ultimately, you know, like I want to push people in a direction that prompts them to make the important questions in their life, to search truth for themselves, to not be incredibly like nihilistic and fatalistic and be like, I'm gonna just swallow a bunch of pills, you know, because that's just like super not where I'm at. But like I think especially more recently too, like this year has been a great year for growth for me. Like I've developed a lot of healthy habits, so like I'm also like trying to like tell my supporters to do like practical things, like yo, drink some water, get off your phone, read a book, work out, you know, like have an enriching, challenging conversation with somebody that you love and respect, you know. Like there's so many aspects to life when it comes to like mental health, and it's an uphill battle with everything in our life that, you know, we're all these extreme pressures that God did not make our brains capable of like confronting, you know what I'm saying?
So man, this has been amazing. I know you and I can like do this forever.
Yeah. Sure.
But I told you earlier today, this conversation is infinite. So I guess drop some plugs. What do you got going on? Where can people follow you?
You can follow me at Mogli the Iceburg. I'm gonna comment it. And I mean, man, I'm working on a lot of cool stuff. I'm actually about to launch a side project that's going to be really cool in the next month or so. Indie Tribe is very much alive, and I cannot, like, I have information. I can't share that information.
Yeah. I actually have no idea. Yeah. He's like, I don't know.
You're in the dark. Everybody's in the dark right now. But yeah, man, I've never been more excited and optimistic about music than I am right now, and everything going on in our space. And yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, man, that's exciting. And I just had this one quick thought too. Imagine, you know, this emo rap rock music that you're putting out. Imagine if this was around, you know, back 20 years ago.
Dog, I was
If you were able to do those tours instead of KJ, but doing the music you do now,
right. Well,
you
bro,
would have
no, it's crazy.
you would have been huge.
Me and Dill were just talking about this the other day. Like, dog, this Christian hip hop has never come close to the level of success that Christian rock was, bro. Like, not even close, bro.
Right.
POD sold 12 million records, and they still outstream Lecrae, bro. TFK outstreams Lecrae in 2020.
Yeah, and rock is pretty much irrelevant in 2020.
I know. Dog, Skillet pumps out like I think somewhere in the ballpark of like 1.2 billion streams a year. Still, and like they are not in their prime.
I haven't listened to Skillet since your cover, and since before your cover. Probably what's that record? Collide or Collision, something like that. That was the last album I had by them. That was like 05,
no, I mean,
06.
POD was one of the biggest bands on the planet. Like even
I know.
Even if you count NF, like NF isn't POD, bro. Like
it's crazy.
Up. So
it's crazy.
It's like I wish I could have caught some of that momentum, but you know, I was born in 1992 for a reason, and you know, like I'm gonna do what I can now.
Well, imagine how many heads you would have blown in 1992 doing the music, doing what is this double time? Like what is this?
Did he just scream?
This is crazy.
Yeah.
What is this death metal with poetry? Yeah, man. But thank you so much. Appreciate you taking the time, man. I hope I get to see you soon.
Yeah, man.
You probably would have been at A3C again this year, right? Which would have been in a couple weeks.
Would have been great, but I'm sure I'll see you next year.
I mean, we can only hope.
I'm not sure of anything at this point. To be
right.
honest. So
we're not sure if we're all going to be here. We're not sure if we're all going to be here next year. But this was good enough. I have my yearly Mogli visit.
Up, bro.
All right, everyone. That was Mogli the Iceburg. This was another awesome episode of Community During Chaos, and I really like the diversity of this episode, which was kind of like the theme of everything. Everybody have a good night, and I hope to see you all next week. Remember to take what you learned to heart and go out there and be a leader and try to make an impact in your community. Doesn't matter how big or small you are important. Good night.